Rebecca walked down the aisle in her grandmother's dress and played the video of her fiancé's betrayal in front of 200 witnesses. But what she discovered in that moment would prove that revenge destroys the person who seeks it more than the person who deserves it. Because this story reveals the one truth about public justice that nobody admits. Sometimes exposing evil makes you unrecognizable to yourself. And by the end, you'll question whether humiliation is justice or just cruelty wearing a white dress. Rebecca had 7 days between discovery and devastation, between finding the truth and weaponizing it, between being the victim and becoming something she swore she'd never be. She spent 3 of those days crying. She spent 2 of those days planning. She spent the final 2 days transforming into someone her fiancé would never recognize until it was too late. You know that feeling when you're so certain of someone's love that you'd bet your entire future on it? Rebecca had already placed that bet. The wedding invitations had been sent. The deposits were non-refundable. Her grandmother's ring sat on her finger, the same ring that had survived 3 generations of marriages, the same ring that symbolized forever. She believed in forever. She believed Brandon when he said he'd never hurt her, never embarrass her, never make her question his loyalty. But the video on his phone told a different story, and the woman in that video was supposed to stand beside her as maid of honor. The discovery happened the way these things always do, accidentally, stupidly, in a moment so ordinary it felt like the universe was mocking her. Brandon's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. He was in the shower. Rebecca was making coffee, humming the song they'd chosen for their first dance, thinking about how in 7 days she'd be his wife. The message preview lit up the screen. Just 3 words from Sarah, her best friend since college, her maid of honor, the woman who'd helped her choose that dress. Missing you already? Rebecca's hand froze on the coffee pot. Missing him? Sarah had been at their apartment the night before for the rehearsal dinner planning. She'd hugged them both goodbye. She looked Rebecca in the eyes and said, "Loyalty above all. That's what we believe in, right?" Rebecca picked up the phone. She knew his passcode, his mother's birthday, something he'd never thought to change because you don't hide things from someone you trust. The video was in their message thread, sent 2 nights ago while Rebecca had been at her bachelorette party. 47 seconds that shattered 3 years. 47 seconds of her fiancé and her best friend in a hotel room that Rebecca recognized because she'd helped her Sarah book it for the wedding weekend. The shower shut off. Rebecca set the phone down exactly where it had been. She poured Brandon's coffee. She smiled when he walked into the kitchen, kissed her forehead, called her his forever. She asked him how he slept. He said perfectly, like he always did when his conscience was clear or when his conscience was so buried he couldn't hear it anymore. Rebecca nodded and sipped her coffee and felt something inside her chest that wasn't quite her heart anymore. It was something colder, something that calculated instead of felt, something that asked not why did this happen, but how do I make them understand what they've done? She didn't scream, she didn't confront, she didn't cry until he left for work, and even then only for an hour. Because Rebecca had discovered something about herself in those 47 seconds of video. She was capable of something she'd never imagined. Pause and think. Have you ever trusted someone who destroyed you? Hold that feeling. It matters for what comes next. Nobody talks about this, but betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it breaks the person you thought you were. Rebecca had always been the forgiving type, the understanding type, the woman who believed love conquered everything and people deserved second chances. Her mother had raised her that way. Her grandmother had shown her that way through 53 years of marriage that survived affairs and addiction and bankruptcy. Rebecca had built her entire identity around mercy. But the video contained something else, something that would destroy more than just Brandon. At the 32-second mark, Sarah laughed and said, "This is so much better than settling for the nice guy." And Brandon replied, "She'll never know. She trusts us too much." They weren't just betraying her body, they were mocking her character. They were gambling on her goodness. And that's when Rebecca understood that forgiveness wasn't always strength, sometimes it was just permission for cruelty to continue. She called her brother that night. Michael was the only person who'd understand because Michael had lived through his own public betrayal when his business partner stole everything and left him bankrupt. Michael had sued, Michael had won. Michael had also warned her that revenge was a meal that poisoned the person eating it. But he also said, if you're going to do it in a way that makes them remember. Rebecca told him her plan. 3 people knew what Rebecca was planning. One of them tried to stop her. Michael said, cancel the wedding, walk away, tell people the truth quietly, don't become the villain in your own story. Her mother said nothing when Rebecca explained it, just stared at her daughter like she was looking at a stranger. Her cousin Emma, who worked as a lawyer, said, technically you're not breaking any laws, but morally, you're about to cross a line you can't uncross. Rebecca heard them all. Rebecca thanked them all. Rebecca proceeded anyway. The next 5 days were performance art. She texted Sarah about last-minute bridesmaid dress adjustments. She confirmed the videographer Brandon had insisted they didn't need, but she'd booked anyway because she wanted every moment captured. She went to the final cake tasting with Brandon's mother and laughed at jokes that weren't funny. She attended the rehearsal dinner and stood beside Brandon while he gave a speech about finding the one, about loyalty, about building a life with someone who'd never let you down. Sarah sat 3 feet away, crying happy tears, saying, "This is the most beautiful day." Rebecca smiled and said, "It's going to be unforgettable." The ceremony was scheduled for 2. Rebecca had timed everything to the minute. The church filled slowly. Brandon's family on the left, Rebecca's on the right, 200 people who drove hours or flew in from other states to watch 2 people promise forever. The videographer set up the large screen at the front. Brandon questioned it, said it was tacky to show a slideshow during the ceremony, but Rebecca had insisted, said it was a surprise for him, a montage of their relationship. He'd relented because he loved her surprises. He loved that she was thoughtful. He loved that she trusted him. The irony was about to become unbearable. The timestamp that would change everything was embedded in the video file. It showed the footage was recorded 3 days before Rebecca's bachelorette party, which meant this wasn't a drunken mistake or a moment of weakness. This was premeditated. This was a pattern. And the video had a second part nobody expected. The music started. The bridesmaids walked down the aisle one by one. Sarah went last, radiant in pale blue, holding the bouquet Rebecca had chosen, smiling at Brandon like they were sharing a secret. They were. Rebecca watched from the back of the church. Her father stood beside her, offering his arm, completely unaware. She took it. The doors opened, every head turned. Brandon's face lit up the way grooms' faces are supposed to light up, the way movies show them lighting up, pure joy and anticipation and love. He believed this was his wedding day. He believed he was getting away with it. He believed Rebecca's trust was stronger than his betrayal. The walk down the aisle took 97 steps. Rebecca counted every one. She reached the altar. Her father kissed her cheek and stepped away. Brandon took her hands. The officiant opened his mouth to begin. Rebecca turned to the videographer and nodded. The screen behind them flickered to life. Brandon assumed it was the surprise slideshow. He smiled. Sarah, standing 4 feet away, frowned slightly, confused. The first image appeared. Not a photo of Rebecca and Brandon at the beach, not their first date, not their engagement. It was Sarah, unmistakable in that hotel room. The church went silent in the way that spaces go silent when reality breaks. Someone gasped. Brandon's hands went limp in Rebecca's. The video played, no sound at first, just footage, just proof. Then Rebecca's voice came through the speakers. She'd recorded her own narration the night before. Her voice was calm, measured, devastating. 7 days ago, I discovered that the man I was about to marry and the woman standing beside me as maid of honor have been lying to me for months." The video continued, 47 seconds that felt like 47 years. Brandon's face drained of color. Sarah started to move, maybe run, but Rebecca's brother Michael blocked the aisle. He'd positioned himself there on purpose. Rebecca's recorded voice continued. "This video was taken 3 days before my bachelorette party, 3 days before Sarah helped me choose my veil, 3 days before Brandon told me he couldn't imagine life without me." The screen showed the timestamp. Clear, undeniable. The church erupted in whispers that became murmurs, that became shouts. Brandon's mother screamed his name. Rebecca's mother sat frozen, hands over her mouth. Sarah finally bolted, pushing past bridesmaids, her heels clicking on marble as she ran. The video ended. The screen went black. Then it flickered again. The second part. This is what nobody expected. Rebecca had hired a private investigator after finding the first video. She'd wanted to know how long, how many times, whether this was a pattern or an isolated mistake. The screen showed 3 more videos. Different dates, different hotels. The affair had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of lies. 8 months of playing the loyal friend and faithful fiancé while planning a wedding built on absolutely nothing. Brandon reached for her. His hands were shaking. He whispered her name like a prayer, like an apology, like a beg. Rebecca stepped back. She'd prepared a speech. She'd written it and rewritten it and practiced it until every word was a blade. But standing there, looking at him, looking at 200 faces staring at her with horror and pity and something else. Judgment, maybe? Or fear? Or recognition that they were witnessing someone become something new? She realized she didn't need the words. The video had said everything. She turned to the officiant, an old pastor who'd known her family for 30 years, who looked like he might cry. She said, "Thank you for your time, and I'm sorry you had to see this." Then she walked, not ran, walked down the aisle, past her family, past his family, past guests who tried to speak to her and guests who recoiled from her. Her dress trailed behind her, white and pristine and absurd. She made it to the parking lot before her legs gave out. Michael found her there, sitting on the curb in her grandmother's dress, mascara finally running, body finally shaking. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just sat beside her and said, "You did it. It's over." But it wasn't over. The aftermath was just beginning. Did you see this twist coming? Comment below before the next part reveals everything. The video went viral within 3 hours. Someone had recorded it on their phone, Rebecca never found out who, and posted it with the caption, "Bride exposes cheating groom at altar." It had 3 million views by midnight. By morning, it was on news sites, reaction channels, relationship podcasts. Everyone had an opinion. Team Rebecca said she was a hero, that public betrayal deserved public exposure, that cheaters needed to understand consequences. Team Brandon said she was cruel, that private matters should stay private, that humiliation wasn't justice. The debate raged. Rebecca's phone exploded with messages, interview requests, book offers, people calling her a queen, people calling her a psychopath. She turned her phone off and stayed in her apartment for 6 days. Brandon called 63 times. She never answered. Sarah sent a letter. Rebecca burned it without reading it. Brandon's mother showed up at her door, crying, begging Rebecca to understand that Brandon was devastated, that he'd made a mistake, that public humiliation was too far. Rebecca asked her if she taught her son that private humiliation of his fiancé was appropriate. Brandon's mother left without answering. Rebecca's mother visited once. She sat on the couch and said, "I don't know if what you did was right or wrong, but I know I don't recognize you anymore, and I don't know if you recognize yourself." Rebecca said, "I don't." Her mother said, "Then you paid as high a price as he did, just in a different way." Rebecca hadn't thought of it that way. She'd been so focused on Brandon's loss, his reputation, his family's shame, his career that took a hit when his employer saw the video. that she hadn't calculated her own. The internet never forgets. Rebecca's face was permanently attached to the story. Every future job interview, every new relationship, every attempt to move forward would be haunted by bride who played revenge porn at wedding. That's what some articles called it, though the video wasn't sexual, just proof of infidelity. The phrase stuck anyway. She became a meme, she became a cautionary tale, she became a symbol that meant different things to different people. Some saw strength, some saw psychosis. Nobody saw the woman she'd been before. The forgiving woman, the trusting woman, the woman who believed love conquered all. That woman was gone. She mourned her sometimes. 2 months later, she ran into Sarah at a coffee shop. Pure accident. They locked eyes across the room. Sarah's face was gaunt, her hair limp, her whole energy diminished. She looked destroyed. She looked the way Rebecca had felt 7 days before the wedding. Rebecca waited for satisfaction, for vindication, for the sweet taste of revenge fulfilled. She felt nothing. Sarah approached slowly, like approaching a wild animal. She said, "I know you won't forgive me, and I'm not asking you to, but I need you to know that what you did destroyed my entire life. I lost my job, my family won't speak to me, I had to move to another city." Rebecca said, "Good." Sarah flinched. Then Rebecca said, "But it destroyed mine too, and I chose to let it? And I'm not sure which of us made the worst choice, you for betraying me, or me for becoming someone who'd orchestrate that kind of pain. What would you do in this moment? Answer before you see their choice." Sarah started crying. She said, "I thought we were friends." Rebecca said, "We were. And then you decided my fiancé was worth more than my friendship. And then I decided revenge was worth more than my character. And now we're both people we don't recognize." Sarah asked if there was any way to fix this. Rebecca said no. Some things can't be fixed. Some things can only be survived. They stood there in that coffee shop, two women who'd once shared every secret, now sharing only wreckage. Sarah left first. Rebecca sat down at a table and ordered coffee she didn't drink and realized her grandmother had been right. Revenge haunted her longer than betrayal. The wedding venue kept the deposit. The video lived forever online. Brandon eventually moved to another state. His family blamed Rebecca for destroying their son, conveniently forgetting that their son had destroyed his own integrity first. Rebecca's family fractured, half supported her, half thought she'd gone too far. All of them changed by witnessing her transform into someone capable of calculated cruelty. Her grandmother passed away 3 months after the wedding that wasn't. On her deathbed, she asked for Rebecca. Rebecca came. Her grandmother took her hand, the hand that no longer wore the family ring because Rebecca had left it at the altar beside the dead flowers and broken promises, and said, "I understand why you did it, but I hope you understand what it cost you." Rebecca said, "I'm starting to." Her grandmother said, "Good, because understanding the weight of your choices is the only way to live with them." 6 months later, Rebecca started therapy. Her therapist asked what she wanted to achieve. Rebecca said, "I want to stop feeling like I'm still standing at that altar, still pressing play, still watching 200 faces turn from joy to horror." The therapist said, "Why did you do it?" Rebecca said, "Because I wanted them to hurt the way I hurt." The therapist said, "Did it work?" Rebecca was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Yes and no. They hurt, but I hurt too, in a new way, in a way I caused myself." The therapist said, "That's called the cost of revenge." Rebecca said, "I know." The sessions continued. Slowly, painfully, Rebecca began excavating the woman she'd been before and examining the woman she'd become. They were strangers. Reconciling them was the hardest thing she'd ever done. A year after the wedding that wasn't, Rebecca wrote an essay about it. She published it under her own name because hiding felt like another kind of lie. The essay went viral too, different from the video, but just as controversial. She wrote about betrayal. She wrote about rage. She wrote about the moment she chose humiliation over healing. She wrote about living with that choice. The essay ended with a question. If someone destroys your trust, do you have the right to destroy their dignity? I thought the answer was yes. Now I think the answer is you have the right, but rights and righteousness aren't the same thing. I had the right to expose Brandon and Sarah. But I'm not sure I was right to do it the way I did, in front of people who didn't deserve to carry that trauma, in a way that made me as cruel as they had been careless. The responses were vicious. Half the internet said she was backtracking, that she should stand by her revenge. The other half said she was finally admitting what they'd known all along, that she was just as bad as the cheater. Nobody acknowledged that maybe both things were true. Maybe she'd been wronged. Maybe her response was understandable. Maybe it was also wrong. Maybe life existed in that gray space, where victims could become villains and justice could look like vengeance, and the right thing could feel like the worst thing. Rebecca learned to live in that gray space. It was lonely there. Brandon reached out 2 years later. An email. Simple, short. He said he was in therapy too. He said he understood now what he had destroyed. He said he wasn't asking for forgiveness, just acknowledgement that they'd both suffered and both contributed to that suffering. Rebecca read it 12 times before responding. She wrote, "You broke my trust. I broke your dignity. Neither action undoes the other. Neither action justifies the other. I don't forgive you. I don't forgive myself either." Maybe that's the real punishment. Living forever with the knowledge of what we're capable of when we're hurt. She sent it. He never replied. That silence felt appropriate.
5 years after the wedding that wasn't, Rebecca attended a real wedding, her cousin's. She sat in the back of a church that looked nothing like the one she'd stood in wearing her grandmother's dress. She watched a bride walk down the aisle. She watched a groom cry with joy. She watched vows exchanged and promises made, and a kiss that sealed something beautiful. She didn't cry. She didn't feel bitter. She felt removed, like watching a ritual she'd once understood but no longer spoke the language of. Trust seemed impossible now. Not just trust in partners, but trust in herself. Trust that she wouldn't become that cold, calculating woman again if someone hurt her. Trust that forgiveness was possible. Trust that love didn't inevitably end in betrayal or revenge. If you're still watching, you understand something most people don't. Stay. Rebecca never married. She dated occasionally, but always held something back, some essential part of herself that she protected like a wounded animal protecting an injury. Men since did and left. She didn't blame them. She'd been hollowed out by what Brandon and Sarah did, then hollowed out further by what she did in response. You can't build something whole in a space that's been twice excavated. She focused on her career instead. She became successful. She made money. She bought a house. She adopted a dog. She lived a life that from the outside looked complete. From the inside, it felt like she was still standing at that altar, finger hovering over play, forever frozen in the moment before everything changed. The video still exists online. It's been downloaded and re-uploaded and dissected and analyzed thousands of times. Rebecca reported it once, tried to have it removed, but it's considered public interest now, a cultural artifact about infidelity and revenge in the social media age. She stopped trying to erase it. Instead, she learned to live alongside it. Every few months, someone recognizes her. Most stay silent. Some approach. One woman said, "You saved me from marrying a cheater. Your video made me investigate and I found proof." Rebecca said, "I'm glad, but I hope you handled it differently than I did." The woman said, "I did. I left quietly, and I'm grateful I'll never have to wonder if revenge would have felt good." Rebecca said it didn't. The woman seemed surprised. Rebecca wasn't. Sarah tried to reconnect once more, 4 years after the coffee shop encounter. A Facebook message. It said, "I've been in therapy and I'm making amends, and I know I can't fix what I broke, but I want you to know I understand the pain I caused." Rebecca typed and deleted 17 responses. Finally, she wrote, "I accept your amend. I also acknowledge my own cruelty. We were both wrong in different ways at different times. I hope you found peace. I'm still looking for mine." Sarah responded immediately, "Thank you. That's more than I deserve." Rebecca thought about that. Deserving. Who deserved what? Did Brandon deserve public humiliation? Did Sarah deserve to lose everything? Did Rebecca deserve to carry the weight of their destruction? Probably none of them deserved any of it. Probably they all did. Probably deserving with the wrong framework entirely. The question that haunts her most isn't whether Brandon and Sarah learned their lesson. It's whether the 200 guests learned anything beyond don't get caught. She wonders about the marriages in that church that day. Did any of them go home and confess affairs? Did any of them become more vigilant, more suspicious, more damaged? Did she plant seeds of distrust in relationships that were solid? She'd been so focused on her pain that she hadn't considered the collateral damage. The children in that church who witnessed an adult meltdown. The elderly guests who'd believed in sacred spaces. The couples who never look at weddings the same way. Her revenge had infected hundreds of people. That weight was hers to carry now. But there's another side to that weight. The messages she still receives even now from people who said watching her stand up to betrayal gave them courage to leave toxic relationships. The women who said they stopped tolerating disrespect because they saw someone refuse to stay silent. The men who said it made them examine their own behavior and become better partners. Rebecca doesn't know what to do with this feedback. She didn't expose Brandon and Sarah to be inspirational. She did it to hurt them. But intention and impact aren't the same thing. Her cruelty helped some people. Her revenge inspired courage in strangers. Does that make it right? She doesn't think so. But it complicates the narrative that revenge is purely destructive. Now, 10 years later, Rebecca lives alone in a quiet neighborhood where nobody knows her story. Her hair is different. Her name is legally changed. She's built a new life from the ashes of the old one. But ashes don't disappear. They just settle into everything, making everything slightly gray. She thinks about that wedding every day. Not obsessively, but consistently, the way you think about a scar that aches in certain weather. She's made peace with most of it. She understands why she did it. She understands why it was wrong. She understands that both things can be true simultaneously. Understanding doesn't equal forgiveness, but it equals survival. 3 things remain unresolved. She never learned whether Brandon truly understood the depth of his betrayal, or if he only understood the depth of his public humiliation. She never learned whether Sarah felt genuine remorse or just regret at being caught. And she never learned whether that version of herself, cold, calculating, capable of orchestrating public destruction, was a transformation or a revelation of who she'd always been underneath the forgiveness. Those questions follow her. Maybe they'll never have answers. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the punishment for choosing revenge isn't that it fails, but that it succeeds in ways you never wanted. But she learned that revenge doesn't give you closure. It gives you a different kind of open wound. She learned that forgiveness isn't about freeing them, it's about freeing yourself from becoming them. She learned that justice and vengeance feel identical in the moment, but diverge dramatically in the aftermath. She learned that public exposure might feel like accountability, but it also feels like cruelty. And sometimes, you can't tell the difference until years later when you're still bleeding from wounds you inflicted on yourself. But here's what haunts everyone who hears this story. If someone betrayed you in the worst way possible, if they gambled on your goodness and mocked your trust, if they involved your closest friend in the destruction of your future, would you choose quiet dignity or public exposure? Because Rebecca chose exposure, and the price was becoming someone her grandmother didn't recognize. The price was carrying their shame alongside her own. The price was understanding that revenge is a mirror. When you destroy someone's dignity, you're staring at the reflection of your own capacity for cruelty. Was she wrong? Comment your answer below. Team private dignity or team public exposure? And if this story changed how you see revenge, if it made you question whether justice and cruelty are sometimes the same thing wearing different masks, share it with someone who's questioning their own path. Because the truth nobody admits is that we're all capable of becoming Rebecca under the right circumstances. The only question is whether we choose to and whether we'd survive the choice.